Welcome back. This is the last video in the Flame and the Flood guide series, and today we're going to be looking at the Endless Run, namely the 200-mile run on Endless that you're going to be going for the Platinum and to take care of a number of trophies. We're going to be looking at the last about 17 miles of my run here. I might cut out some of the islands that repeat kind of the same actions that happen. We don't want to necessarily go over the same material over and over again, but there are a couple encounters with animals that I want to show you right at the beginning. Something to consider as we're pulling up to what looks like a marina here. If you are not familiar with the requirements for Endless, it pretty much plays out like the campaign for the first 40 miles or so, except the possibility of running into any animal or any hazard can always happen. Even on the first island, you could see a bear as soon as you get off your raft the first time. You could run into ants or poison ivy or colder weather in your first region. So it's useful to attempt Endless after you've gone through the campaign, so at least you know a little bit better about how the game works. If you've been following the guides I've put up here on YouTube or playing on your own, and if you've been playing through the campaign, you know that it's necessary to play the campaign twice so that you go through the campaign like normal and you get all the campaign trophies and kill all the animals in the ways that you need to kill them, use their hides to make clothing and so forth. But you also need to do a second run called the Animal Friend Run, which I do have here up on YouTube, where you need to go through the entire game without killing any animals. I wanted to point out some of the encounters that I came across on the islands, and here we have some wolves. And as I said, this is 184 miles in, I think. And all you're going to hit is pretty much wildernesses and marinas. So here, if you can see up there, there was 3 wolves and a boar on the island. Every time you come to an island late in the Endless Run, you want to try to run past any animals you see and check to see if there's a bear or if there's a boar. The bears will kill pretty much any other animal for you, but don't get too close to the bear. But the boar and the wolves have kind of an interesting relationship. They will usually, especially if it's just one wolf and one boar, they will attack each other continuously. They'll never kill each other. So I guess their health level is the same, their attack level, however the game is calibrated. The boars and the wolves can never kill each other. Here we have snakes and wolves. So I'm using the snakes to at least scare the wolves away. If there was only one wolf on this island, I would use the snakes to bite the wolf, and hopefully there would be enough snakes, 3, to kill the wolf before it did any damage to me, and then I'd be able to grab its meat. And the reason I'm showing you both of these things, using the bear or the boar to help you with wolves, and using snakes against wolves, and of course against rabbits or boars, which they are very good at taking care of for you, is because when you get this far into the game, as you can see, I don't have a ton of saplings, a ton of cattails. you know, those kind of resources are a lot less prevalent in the second 100 miles of the game. So you want to use what you can have access to, and that will almost always be the animals on the island. Use them against each other. See, there's even a boar here. Now I could have used a piece of tainted meat or bait and thrown it out in hopes that I would be able to use it on all three wolves. Also, notice the snake here. There's 2 or 3, I think, snake bites that I take, but I'm not damaged because I'm wearing the white wolf jacket. So there shows you a lot of different things. I used the torch to keep the wolves away from me, but it did attract the snakes, which I've talked about in other videos here in this series. But I also have the white wolf jacket on, so I was protected from those bites. And I'm still running around and not really having to worry about the wolves because the boar is distracting the wolves. So these are useful ways that you can get around and spend less time bandaging up lacerations or simply running off an island because you're too scared to deal with the animals, or you not having to worry about attacking all the animals with your limited resources. So there's definitely ways to take care of that. We'll look at a few more islands as we sail on, but I wanted to talk you through a little bit of what you should be looking forward to in your endless run. This is one of 2 endless runs. This run is to go all the way to 200 miles. And as you can see, it's easy to, especially this late in the game, to hit things with the raft because there's always something in your way this far. Luckily enough, at 185 miles or wherever we are, there's a bunch of wilderness, but interspersed with all the wildernesses, there's always going to be a marina every probably 6 or 7 islands, maybe 10 islands. I'm estimating here, but you'll always have the opportunity to repair your raft, and you should come across enough nuts and bolts and old lumber to keep everything kind of in working order, because you don't want to drown. You don't want to crash your raft and drown at 198 miles of 200 miles and have to start all over again to get to 200 miles for the River God trophy. Speaking of trophies, River God is what you get for getting to 200 miles. The longest river, I think it's called. The longest river is for getting 100 miles. Those 2 will come naturally as you head up the river and reach those mileages. But other things that you should consider on your first endless run, I suggest, and it has to be done the first 40 days. You have to start out this way. The first 40 days, look at Paleo Diet, and what that is do not eat any plants for the first 40 days of your endless run. If you're familiar enough with the game, this is fairly easy. You can go make yourself a stone knife and a stone hammer, grab your saplings, grab your cattails, and use traps, snares, spear traps, box traps on the rabbits. Use the resources, even arrows, once you can make bow and arrow. Use your resources to kill the animals and eat their meat, and eat any grubs or night crawlers that you might find as you're rooting around. Certainly any jerky that either you make or you might come across is fine, but don't eat any plants, no cattails, dandelions, corn, ash cakes, yuca, cooked or uncooked, garlic, and I believe there's maybe like one or two other plants that are edible. Just don't eat any plant life, anything that you find, until you reach 40 days and you get the Paleo Diet trophy. I forgot that this was intended to be in the first 40 days on my endless run, on one of the first one or two endless runs that I did on this account, and I kind of missed the opportunity. You certainly don't want to get 20, 30, or even 100 miles in and realize that you forgot to do it and have to play another endless run for 40 miles just for that trophy, when it's pretty second nature to kill animals and eat the meat for sustenance in this game, unless you're going for one of the vegetarian trophies. Speaking of which, vegetarian is the opposite of what you need to do for Paleo Diet, and that would be done on your second endless run. It's a very quick endless run. You only need to spend your first 20 days not killing any animals. That can be done with stored jerky or eating any meat of any animals that die from another animal attack. Like boars can be killed by snakes, or any animal that's killed by a bear. If you can gather the meat and skins, you can still use them and eat the meat, and that won't void the trophy, but just don't kill any animals. If you need any tips on how to get around in this game without killing animals, I would refer you to my 5-part Animal Friends series. That's also here on YouTube. Oh, here was the white wolf. I of course already have the white wolf skin, as I mentioned before, but I noticed he was on this island and he ran away, and then I found him hiding in the corner here. I guess that's his it's either his spawn point or his exit point when he gets scared away, and I thought maybe I'd be able to catch him one more time, but he disappeared. He never fell for my little trap here. But you will, in 200 miles, you're going to run into all of the special animals, and you'll have an opportunity to make the special elder wolf and white wolf jackets that you need for Crafty. Crafty is another one that you will definitely be able to knock out if you haven't done in your campaign runs. Crafty should come naturally as you're killing animals and crafting everything that you can craft. I ran into some kind of quirks in this game on this account. As I mentioned, this is my second time going for the platinum. This is the second account I've done this on, and some of the trophies I kind of don't remember struggling with on my main account seemed to give me a few problems. Crafty was one of them. I know that during the campaign I wasn't necessarily able to craft a full bear outfit, so I saved that for once I got into endless. But then once I had crafted it, I didn't see the trophy pop, and so I went through and kept crafting every other animal skin, and I finally got the Crafty trophy after creating a rabbit jacket or pants. I can't remember. It's probably a jacket. And then Crafty popped for me. So it may be just a matter of taking stock of what you have created in your runs. I assume it's cumulative because it popped at a very strange time and I hadn't created other things that I thought I needed to create in Endless for that run. So just take note of what you've made as you play through this game, and you should see that once everything in the list that you need to make is done and it's crossed off, you should receive the trophy. If not, start from scratch and just keep not start your playthrough from scratch, but start at the top of the list and just make everything again, and eventually you'll hit whatever it was that you missed or that the game thinks you missed. As you see, we're here at the marina, and this raft is fully upgraded, and we're putting in what we have to just kind of get the raft as close to 100 as possible. Sometimes when you hit a little piece of land, it'll take a chunk off that doesn't make a perfect 10 that you can just perfectly fix. So you can either overspend and get to 100, or you can just wait until that number is under 90 to put some more nuts and bolts into it. But I also wanted to point out that one of the raft upgrades is the raft shelter, and the other trophy that you're going to want to go through and complete as you play this long 200-mile endless run is Under the Stars, and that is to spend 40 days not sleeping in any shelter. Unlike the Paleo Diet trophy, this can be any 40 days in a row during your endless run. I actually began this endless run working towards both the Paleo and Under the Stars trophies, and then somewhere along the line of the first 40 days, I forgot, and I slept in a church, or I slept in a bus or something, and I noticed as I was getting very close to the end of the first 40 days that I was sleeping in shelters, and I had forgotten to only use the raft. And so pretty much around the same time I got the Paleo Diet trophy, I began sleeping only on the raft and was able to get Under the Stars in about 40 days after that. So look into that trophy, and you want to eventually make sure that you get 40 days. You're going to spend, we're almost at 100 days in this run, and we only have a handful of days left before we reach 200 miles. So you have time to get it if you forget, but you don't have that much time. So keep it in mind, and as soon as you can get the raft shelter upgrade in your raft, and you can use that to sleep, you can start working towards that. What I had done in order to make that happen right at the beginning of this run was I played a few endless runs, and I padded the dog's bag with schematics and raft frames and raft hardware, along with a lot of did I give jerky? I may have put jerky in here, but that may have been for a different run, because I was working on on Paleo Diet, so maybe not. So I had loaded it up so that I could start right away and get to a marina and upgrade the shelter as soon as possible. And I'm fairly certain I did that at the beginning of this run, but as I said, I had forgotten along the way, and I ended up sleeping in a shelter. But easily corrected as long as you catch it in time and you spend 40 days just sleeping on the raft. Two other trophies that I struggled with, and I didn't get during this run, and it was the last two that I got. Just keep an eye on these snakes and the wolves here. I'm going to try to use the snakes to keep these guys away from me, but I don't believe Yeah, I do get hit a few times here. But, yeah, I might actually be calling this one a done deal and starting over again. Let's see if I get hit again. Doesn't look like it. Okay. I don't think I've done it in this section of video. If you've watched the Animal Friend series, I do show that, you know, if you get attacked, and it's so very important in this endless run as you're getting so close to 200 miles. If you're getting attacked enough and you're about to die, stop, pause, go to the main menu, and then hit continue, and you will start at the beginning of whatever island you landed on. There's the game saves, it auto saves every single time you land on an island, so that's a good starting point every single time. If you get to an island and you run into 3 wolves and they each hit you and you fall to the ground, just restart from that autosave by going to the main menu and hitting continue. That way you can use that information and either leave the island and not worry about those wolves, or you can handle those wolves in a different way instead of letting the wolves kill you and having to start all over again for this 200-mile run, which takes about probably 15 hours. Not something you would necessarily want to repeat just because of one small mistake. But as I was saying, the 2 trophies that I ran into big problems with on this account were Learned the Hard Way and Sickly. Learned the Hard Way is to die each of the various ways, and Sickly is to get every affliction. I know for a fact I've died every single way possible at least once, and I know I've gotten every affliction probably 3 or 4 times, but eventually, after both my endless runs and me running through and dying every single way I could, the end result was getting killed by a bear is what gave me the trophy. I don't know if every single bear attack I just canceled out, or if the game just didn't remember that I died by being mauled. Speaking of bear, here's a bear. It's a good way to get yourself some free meat and some wolf skins if you need them. Let the bear do all the hard work for you, and just keep your distance. There's a boar there as well. As I've said in previous videos, the boar, if you run by the bear cave, the boar will follow you over there and get distracted by the bear. The only problem with that is the boar will normally ram into the bear cave, and the bear will kill the boar inside his cave. Oh, here we're gonna sneak into the bear cave and see what we can get. He's just around there, and there he is. And he's not too happy that we went into his cave, so we're gonna run out and we're gonna fix that broken bone. That's another thing you can do if you can get the bear distracted enough to run out after the other animals, the wolves or the boar. You can run in there. Sometimes he'll have bear hide, he'll have repair patches, and a few other odds and ends that might be useful. The bear also sometimes has spoiled fish, so if you're going for the affliction trophies, as I was just talking about, you'll need a spoiled fish so that you can eat it and get blood flukes. That's one of the afflictions you need to get. So yeah, so this island's pretty much done. The bear's is gonna stay there. It's not gonna let us go back and grab those other pieces of meat that could be useful. Also, I should mention, on the raft, one of the upgrades is a stove, which is definitely useful in these situations. You have all this meat that you're acquiring, and as you can see, I can't get back on the island to make a campfire. Plus, I don't want to waste those resources. So the only thing you need to do once you get the stove on your raft, which takes 3 schematics, 3 frames, and 3 hardwares, I believe. It might be 2 of one of those. There's a few upgrades that take 3 and 2. So that might be either 3 and 2 or 3 and 3 with the frames and hardware. But once you have it on there, all you need is a tinder, which is just a cattail that you can turn into tinder, and you can get the stove kindled, and then you can cook anything you need to cook. Also, once the stove is on there, it gives you a chance to just craft. Even if you don't kindle the stove, you can still craft other items that don't need heat, or you can access your inventory, you can eat something, you can use whatever you need to use in your inventory as you sit on the raft before you head out to the next destination. Useful to use, and certainly in this endless run. The other useful upgrades, the water filtration system, or however they classify it, is useful, especially in endless, because you will hit large patches of the river that are very slow, sometimes very cold, and you will not see a lot of water sources. You'll not find a lot of water sources in the last 100 miles of your endless run. So having something on your raft that you can use to fill up your jars, or even directly drink from, is very useful. So keep that in mind. Of course, the shelter and the other upgrades that allow you to steer the boat, the rudder, the sturdy frame, are always good to have as you go around. But as I was saying, sickly and learn the hard way. So learn the hard way. The bear, being mauled by the bear is what finally did it for me. And as I said, I don't know if I just never allowed that to happen earlier. So I would suggest the more of the deaths that you can take care of in your campaign run, playing on Traveler, the better. That way you know for a fact there's only, I think, like 8 or 9 different ways to die. So if you can just keep track of which ones you've done, and then it will reload you at the checkpoint of whatever region you're in. It might mean that you have to start over a region and spend another hour or 2 going through that area again, but at least that way you're set up and you know what you're coming up against. It won't always be the exact same layout of every island, but that way you can at least get it taken care of, because if you save your deaths for endless runs, it's useful enough to do that. Here we have another bear, we have snakes, we have wolves. It's useful enough to do that in endless runs, because then you can load up what you need to keep with you into the dog's bag, and you can check every death off your list. The only problem is some of those deaths take a long time to get to. Hypothermia, or any animal attack that you're waiting to get. You just have to find these animals, which shouldn't take too long, but especially hypothermia, as I said, you have to wait until you get to an area that's cold enough that scout can die from it. So it's useful enough to knock it out in your campaign, but there's also ways to make it useful during your endless runs as you're starting out and padding out your inventory with stuff. Here we're luckily grabbing some meat, very far away from the bear. Looking at some resources here. And the other trophy I struggled with was sickly. See, I'm just getting close enough to the bear cave that I don't aggro the bear to come after me. This far away from the dock, I would probably get killed by the bear. Would not probably be able to outrun the bear enough. The bear is very fast, and it is very direct when it runs at you. The wolves do kind of a serpentine around you sometimes. Even when there's 3 of them, you can usually avoid a lot of their attacks, and you can of course wave them away a little bit. The boar is a very direct ramming effect that you can avoid easily if you're paying attention. But the bear, he comes directly for you, and he can kill you with 3 hits. He can break your bones with the first hit, and you'll be hobbling away, and you will not make it that far if you instigate the bear. So keep your distance, but use the bears effectively. As I was saying, sickly was the other trophy that I struggled with, and I know for a fact I had gotten every single affliction 3 or 4 different times, and I actually played an extra probably 5 endless runs, just constantly getting every single affliction. And I don't even remember what the final affliction was that I got. I'm pulling up the list here. Lacerations, then staph infection, broken bones, wet and ill-equipped. You're going to get all the time. Tiny cuts from thorns, poison ivy. I had gotten poison ivy about 5, 6, 7 times. Not a big problem, poison ivy. It goes away eventually. It doesn't cause you any problems. It's something you don't have to treat necessarily if you don't have the opportunity to. But it's very easy to treat with aloe. The bacterial infection that you get after leaving ant bites alone for a while. Blood flukes, as I mentioned, you get from the fish you get out of bear caves, only available in bear caves. Food poisoning from eating spoiled or tainted meat or uncooked yucca. Parasites, it's one of the things you can get from drinking contaminated water or moldy lump. And then Giardia, dysentery, and listeria, still don't know how to say that you can get from polluted water. But the thing that finally did it for me, and I know it was not the first, it was not the second, probably not the 5th time I had Scout drink alcohol and get drunk, and that finally did it for me. Probably 40 hours into playing this game, I finally got that and the platinum just a few days ago. Again, a lot of what we're seeing here is pretty much the same thing. Get to an island, assess what kind of dangers there are and resources, and if you can use any animals against each other to get them to do the fighting for you. And if you can get to any resources, grab them, take them with you. Of course, we have a fully upgraded inventory, fully upgraded raft storage, and fully upgraded raft. And Aesop has his 6 slots that we can also use. So grab everything you can and use your resources and manage your inventory so that you can hold on to the things that you need and not necessarily worry about the things that aren't really important at this point. Nuts and bolts and lumber at this point don't do anything for us except help us keep the raft healthy. So worth keeping a small pile, but don't go crazy in collecting those. Other things that you really don't need anymore: flint and stitching kits are things that you don't necessarily need now that you've created other things, but again, it's still good to have 1 or 2 pieces of flint in case you lose your stone knife and you need to create traps or things. And stitching kits can be used to fix up lacerations if you don't have bandages. So definitely ways to use those items still, but if they're taking up space in your inventory, you can also get rid of them or use them up and not stress about finding more, because you'll be alright without it. But as you can see, some of these islands you walk on, there's no animals, there's nothing, there's no crates or anything that you can get resources off. There's no plant life, just poison ivy. Sometimes you come to an island, it'll just be ants or the little thorny bushes. The only thing on the island. There's usually always at least one item on there, one thing on there that can hurt you, whether it's like I said, the thorns, the poison ivy, the ants, or at least one animal. But oftentimes it'll be that and nothing else, but you might be able to still find resources every now and again. As I mentioned, this far out, it's pretty much just wilderness and marinas, but you will occasionally see a church, and if you're really lucky, even a camp with a fire. There are sections or regions in Endless where it never rains, and there are regions where it rains 90% of the time. So if you come upon a camp in a region where it's not raining, certainly use that to your benefit. But as I mentioned before, you should have the stove on there already. And you want to, of course, be wearing the best gear you can. Early on in this run, I made sure to gather up a ton of saplings, cattails, make them into braided cords, and I used all of my spear traps solely on the bears. Whenever I came up against a bear, I'd make sure that the bear killed every other animal, and then I would set 4 traps out and lead the bear into all 4 traps, and then take the bear skin and meat and make a piece of gear out of it. Eventually, once you do that, if you have a full bear outfit, you can get the trophy Arctic Survivor. It's not something that I found very easy to do during the campaign. There's a bear right there. Because I found that during the campaign, the amount of time and exposure you get to a bear doesn't really afford you enough time to kill enough bears to make the hat, the gloves, the boots, the jacket, and the pants. It didn't work out, because I think you need 1 for the hat, 1 for the gloves, 1 for the boots. So that's 3. I think you need 2 for the pants and maybe just 2 for the jacket. So 2, 4, 7. I would say 7 to 8 bears is what you're going to need. Plus you need, of course, leather kits for every single piece of that outfit. Leather kits are nuts and bolts and rabbit hides that you can only make at a workbench. So getting all those resources together in the last 2 regions of the campaign is unlikely. So you're not going to have a full bear costume by the time you finish that in the campaign. Here, I focused on getting that as soon as possible. I killed a bunch of rabbits and had rabbit hides, and I used them to make pouches and leather kits, and then I saved all of my spear traps up, or at least the resources to make spear traps, until I came across a bear and used those resources to kill the bears and make a full bear outfit. I either brought it all along in Aesop's bag, as I mentioned before. I padded his bag with a bunch of materials to aid in this run. I may have brought the either elder wolf or white wolf jacket with me. If not, then I at some point ran into, I'm sure, both of those wolves during this endless run, and turned the hide into a jacket to protect me. Both warm you or keep your body warm just like a bear hide would, but the elder wolf protects you against lacerations, and the white wolf, as we demonstrated earlier, protects you from snake bites and any attack, any bear, any animal attack. I think even sometimes a bear attack. But again, everything is, there's a certain percentage of chance that it will protect you. It's not constant. You're not invincible. You will still receive, as you have seen in this run so far, plenty of lacerations, plenty of broken bones, and even snake bites from time to time that you'll have to cure with dandelion tea. So, but you definitely want to focus on getting that outfit together. Elder wolf, when you come up against it, or white wolf, certainly, if you are lucky enough to have that happen, turn that hide into a jacket, and then everything else make bear hide. And as I mentioned before, also make the bear hide jacket, put it on, so that you can get the trophy for making the full bear outfit, the Arctic Survivor. Speaking of resources you don't need, right there, all the wolf hides that I had. The wolf hides especially, once you have a full bear outfit or anything that's warmer than wolf, you don't need wolf hides. They do nothing for you. You could keep a boar hide in your inventory, maybe on the raft, in case you need to make a new steel knife to make bows and arrows, and to make a few of the garments that, if you haven't made them already. But I mean, again, as I'm saying, we already have the perfect outfit, so you don't really need a steel knife for anything other than a bow and arrow. And having a bow and arrow is useful enough, but you're probably not going to use your bow and arrow that often in these last 10 miles or so of the run. So, but if you can keep the room, keep a boar hide, but wolf hides not necessary. If you have full pouch and you don't really need to create any more garments, don't worry about rabbit hides. That's the two things that they're good for. And if you do kill some bears, the bear hides after you create the full outfit aren't useful either. So any animal hides in your inventory, if you get to this point and you're finding that you don't have room for stuff that you need, that would be the first thing I would suggest you get rid of. We're sailing along the boat here, and we have looked at the upgrades before, but I just wanted to mention two other trophies that you should consider during your endless run is Terraphobia and Speedboat. Speedboat is going to happen naturally if you put the raft motor on the raft early enough, and if you collect gas and you often use the motor to sail down the river, you will more than likely get that on your own without worrying about it. Terraphobia, on the other hand, you need to plan out, and you need to be very careful if you're going to go for, especially on an endless run, because this is an interesting way that they made the raft, the path of the river there, where it looked like you were going to veer off to the right, and you ended up coming into a dead end there. But Terraphobia, you need to sail up the river down the river, however you feel like you're going, for 10 miles without stopping. And I do have a video up on the channel showing my run and showing that the problems that I ran into with that. And as I show in that video, and I've mentioned in my other videos, is one thing you need to consider is that in 10 miles of traveling without getting off on an island, you'll need to eat a few items of food, and you need to drink probably 2 or 3 jars of water in those 10 miles, so that you don't suffer from starvation or thirst, or dehydration, I should say. But the big problem with sailing for 10 miles straight is Scout's body will become exhausted before you reach the 10-mile mark. And what I show in that video is that at some point Scout gets exhausted, and it gives you the option to collapse by hitting square, and that refills your energy, and it only takes a little bit of points away from your hunger level and your thirst level, so that you just need to eat a little bit more and drink a little bit more once you wake up. And it also doesn't have you crash into any rocks as you're sleeping, which is convenient. So check the Terraphobia video out on this channel, and that will show you the best way that you can set up for that run and accomplish it. Keep in mind that if you do crash your raft and drown, or die of exhaustion, or die of starvation or thirst if you're not properly prepared, that if you're doing it during an endless run, that will end your run. You'll have to start all over again. Definitely not something you want to try here with only a couple miles to go before we hit it. Certainly save that for a separate run, but you want to do it at a point where your raft is at least upgraded with a motor, if not fully upgraded. You want to do it when you have at least 3 or 4 pieces of meat and 3 or 4 jars of water, and I also suggest 3 jars of gasoline, so that you can keep the motor running in waters that are just kind of like this, where there's no rapids, and eat and drink as you sail without losing Scout's life for any particular reason. But as I said, not something I would be trying at this point, but you need to at least be far enough into the game that the raft is upgraded with a motor, and that you have those resources that you can use as you attempt it. We're about 10 minutes out from the end of this run here, and I thought I was going to be getting rid of some of the content, but so far, as I do have the gift of gab, I've been able to fill the whole hour so far. So as we wind down this run here, looks like we have about 5 miles left, and you can see we're managing our resources well enough here. We're not suffering from hypothermia because we're wearing the best outfit, and we are sleeping on the raft every 2 or 3 islands that we visit. So we are nearly done here. We have about 3.5 miles left to go. Following this endless run, the only item, if you're following these guides, the only item you still need to take care of, other than possibly learn the hard way and sickly, like I had to, is the vegetarian trophy, and that is a second endless run. All that is required for that is to spend your first 20 days in endless without killing any animals. So this is a lot easier than the Animal Friend trophy that you need to do through a full campaign. It's only 20 days, and a normal campaign is about 40 days. And in Endless, you have much more opportunity to pad the dog's bag with jerky, as well as pouches or rabbit skins. As you can see here, I have raft schematics, I have a lot of jerky, and I have a pouch and a couple more rabbit skins. I also have the Elder Wolf jacket in there, which you can throw on. But in the first 20 days, especially if you are planning on spending a lot of that time just sleeping through the days, whether in shelters on any island that you come across, or if you have the opportunity to put the raft shelter on your raft, then you can just simply sleep on your raft and just sleep through as many of those 20 days as you can. That way you'll get it a lot much faster. But the other benefit of playing in Endless, other than the fact that you can bring all these resources with you in the dog's bag, is that the first 7-8 miles of your run, the first 2 or 3 regions, you're going to get a lot of farms, camps, churches, and bait shacks that are going to have lots of vegetation and lots of useful foods that you can collect and use. Of course, in this run, Paleo Diet was your first concern. 40 days, the first 40 days without eating any plants. So in your second run, as I mentioned before, the total opposite. You want to try to gather up any plant life that you can and use that for your benefit to keep your hunger level satiated, and also any jerky that you bring along in the dog's bag. And you can still use animals to attack each other, and you can eat the meat and even use the animal skins that you acquire, as long as you aren't the reason that animal died. And again, as I've mentioned in other videos, you can lead a boar into 2 snakes. The snakes will be the objects that kill the boar. It won't be your fault, at least not according to the game. So you can still do all those kind of things. Here I was working on trying to knock out a couple afflictions to see if I could possibly get the sickly trophy before I finished my endless run here. And as I mentioned, I did not get it until a couple more runs when I had some more alcohol and got drunk. So vegetarian is the last run you're gonna work on. And once you get through your 20 days, whether eating meat or eating plants, as I said, vegetarian, the trophy, the name of the trophy makes you think you're not allowed to eat any meat, but that is not the case. You just can't kill any animals. If you need any tips on how to get through without killing any animals, I would refer you to my Animal Friend series that's part of this playlist on YouTube. That goes through the entire campaign and shows you certain methods you can use to avoid the various animal attacks, and a little bit towards the end of the campaign I show you how you can pit animals against each other. But certainly this video shows that a little bit more, because we weren't under any restrictions or any fear of avoiding that trophy in this run. So that demonstrates the beginning of this run demonstrates a lot better how to get the bear to to kill the wolves or the boar for you, or how to get a snake to kill a boar for you, or a rabbit. So that's pretty much the end of the run. We're getting very close, and I hope that these guides have been useful for you. I hope you've been able to find as much joy out of this game as I have. I don't know why, but this game calms me down, and it makes me happy. And I hope you find the same. It's also kind of interesting to me that you don't see this game streamed very often. You don't find a lot of trophy guides for this game on YouTube. So I hope that these guides can fill that need and can help you out. 'Cause I certainly enjoyed making them. We are very close here. 1 or 2 more islands to go, and we'll see the trophy pop. And yeah, as I mentioned before, a lot of these islands towards the end, there's really nothing to see, nothing to do. So it gets a little monotonous. Oh yes, here, as I mentioned, here I'm removing all the clothing. You certainly do not need to do this in order to get the River God trophy. This was simply just because it was raining. It reminded me, oh, you know, maybe if I get wet, I'll freeze faster. And since I'm so close to crossing over into the 200-mile destination, I may as well take this off, and then we'll sail up into the river until we finally get cold enough to die of hypothermia. I don't believe this video will end with me dying. I do believe I probably stopped the video before that happened. But unfortunately it also didn't do any good. It didn't get me the trophy. But we're just going through our inventory here, making sure that we are loaded up properly for the second run, and making sure that we certainly don't die before we cross the 200-mile mark. And I don't want to die of anything other than hypothermia, so I'm making sure all of my needs are met. But again, not useful information to you. I simply am leaving this in because I can't actually remove any more of this video because Share Factory won't let me. I have to go straight through to the 200-mile mark to finish up this video. And we are going to see the trophy pop very soon. It's going to be a little delayed after we reach 200. As you can see, 200 right there. And right about here, I think we're coming up to it. Right there. Okay, there you go. River God. 200 miles. And so there you go. That's all you have to really do. Get to it. You don't need to even land. Some of these trophies do not always pop as you're on the river. I think my Terraphobia video showed that. Some other ones may do the same. So if you notice that you do tick over past 200 and you're and you're maybe a mile or two past that and you're still not seeing the trophy pop, I would suggest just getting off on the next island, and it should certainly happen then. And if it doesn't, let me know in the comments. I don't know what I can do for you, but I certainly would like to know if there's any problems like that. And that's interesting to see a water faucet there. Well, I hope this video was useful, and I hope this series was useful to you. I do want to thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you very much.